The Chauvin trial continues in Minneapolis as more and more people wonder what's going on, what's going to come out of this, and confused by the fact that many people are saying that the trial is going to go Chauvin's way, in spite of the fact that the mainstream media keeps telling them that this is an open shut case. In other news, Joe Biden comes out with a large spate of gun orders that he is going to do from the executive branch as he names officially his new ATF director. So we'll talk a bit about that. Joe Manchin says that the Capitol Selfie Fest is what inspired him to stay with the filibuster. And the Secretary of State in Georgia says that Democrats are criticizing his voting rights to make sure that they get H.R. 1 through. Plus, today is the day where we give thanks to everybody who chats in the live chat throughout the week, so make sure that if you're just lurking, you get one of those messages in. It's going to be all that and more. Hey, 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 do you trust the plan yet? I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We've got a bunch of stuff to get to today because, and I mean, look at the top of here. I've got 34 lined up just to talk about on today, and a lot of it has to do with Chauvin and the big gun trial. And we did have to go a little bit early today, too, just because there's so much here. But we're going to power through all of this, plus make sure that we thank everybody who chats on the live chat today. And throughout the week as well, so make sure you're getting those last minute messages in, so we make sure to thank you. And I'll remind you throughout the program too, because, well, you guys come in here and you have your morning coffee with me, and I really appreciate that. But before we get into anything, head on over and bookmark freedomscoop.com. We have 1 week and 1 day until the reveal of the brand new website. I'm so excited for this. So head on over there. Go bookmark the page. It still says that it's under construction, but we're getting ready to go. And I'm fairly excited to see what happens with that as well. So while you're over there, go check out YouTube and check out all of my friends, The Generational Gap, The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The Freckles and Brit Show, and The R-Rated Conservative. Go and check all of them out, get them a good bookmark, and listen to the programming that they have. It may not always align with your beliefs of the world, but they are definitely good people trying to get the message out to you that the mainstream media doesn't want you to have. So definitely go and check them out. We will have a new feature on the website in which you can directly support our great creators. So go over there and check that out as well. And make sure you're hanging out here a week from tomorrow. It is already 7 days away. I'm getting through the final preparation for 24 hours of live stream for suicide prevention. There's going to be so much going on there. We've got a bunch of great guests. I've been putting out the promotional material a little bit more because I'm ready to see a whole bunch of people come in here and come and hang out. I've been psyching myself up for this for a month. Definitely looking forward to it. I'm definitely looking for a couple days off too because I'm taking that Friday off from work and just sleeping the whole day so I can go for 24 hours. Midnight to midnight Central Time. And you guys make sure that you come back in and check out the midnight on the other end on going into Sunday morning because you're going to see a guy probably bobbing his head, half exhausted, no idea what the hell's going on. Bang is going to be a big factor of that day, I predict. But it's for a good cause. I'm so excited to get through this, and it's going to be all that and more. All right, let's look at finance for the day here. Let's get the live chat up for you guys and see what you guys are doing. All right, on the finance, the Dow went back up. I believe it didn't quite hit another record high, but it got close back again. We came back up to 33,503.57. That was after a sharp drop-off in the beginning of the day and just a steady climb throughout the day. So they're back up, they're ready to go, and we'll see what's happening with that. Bitcoin also rose up yesterday from the 56,000 mark up to 58,596.90 US dollars. So if you got a little bit on the dip, congratulations. You made 25 cents, maybe. Depends on how much you got, of course. If you went out and bought a whole Bitcoin because you're richer than God, then you made out a little bit. But other than that, you got a little bit back into you, and good job on that. All right. Looking in at the gas, Madison is holding steady at 253 across the board, across all stations listed today. So it looks like we're having a little bit of a comeback down off of that. So we'll see what's happening there. And for IBD, give that a second to think. Dow Jones futures rise after tech leaders break out, set up, what to do now, from Ed Carson. Dow Jones futures and S&P 500 futures rose slightly Friday morning, while Nasdaq futures fell modestly as Treasury yields climbed. The stock market rally had a strong session Thursday as the Nasdaq continues to build momentum with growth plays joining the tech megacaps. Taiwan Semiconductor reported strong sales early Friday. The split market rally is over, with the Nasdaq racing towards record highs and more tech stocks breaking out, offering early entries or making other bullish moves. Apple stock is building the right side of its base along with Amazon.com, Adobe, and Nvidia stock. Shopify is flashing an early entry. Meanwhile, Microsoft, Facebook, and Alphabet are at record highs and buy zones. IBD 50 stocks, Etsy, Square, Pinterest, Wayfair, HubSpot are setting up in bullish bases, which Etsy and Pinterest both kind of do confuse me a little bit, especially after what we saw with Square, because with Etsy, it seems like we might see more lockdowns and more people preparing to stay home for longer. Or maybe it's just that one parent decided that they really didn't need to go into the workforce and can stay home and take care of the kid or work from home or do the homeschooling from home too. So that's another way to look at it as well. So we'll see what's happening with that. Plus, Wayfair's up there, so you can possibly get yourself a little house kid from Mexico. Oh, I'm sorry. Nope, that didn't happen with Wayfair. It's definitely all just furniture. They're setting up bullish bases. Etsy and Square are offering early entries, while Pinterest and Hubs already did. Taiwan Semiconductor early Friday reported March sales climbed 17% to 362.4 billion Taiwanese dollars. That's 12.7 billion US dollars, beating the consensus for Taiwanese $360.5 billion. The solid growth for the world's largest chip foundry is positive indication regarding demand for its customers, including Apple and Nvidia. Taiwan Semiconductor's earnings are due next week. TSM stock edged lower Friday before the open. Shares rose 2.95% to 123.43 on Thursday, closing just below the 50-day line. A move on the 50-day and last week's high of 127.40 could offer an early entry as Taiwan Semiconductor builds the right side of a base with a 142.29 buy point. So definitely go and look into them, because that's going to be, if people are going to go out and buy their stupid crapple phones, then it's right there. Because Taiwan Semiconductor is going to boom off of that. Not official financial advice. Check with your financial advisor, who is an official advisor for finances, as to what is best for your portfolio. Apple stock rallied 1.9% on Thursday to 136.36, a day after retaking its 50-day line. Arguably, that offered an early entry through Apple stock's weak relative strength line didn't give a strong reason for aggressive buying. Nvidia rose 1.2%, working on the right side of its base after moving sideways for several months. Microsoft stock climbed 1.3%. Google stock advanced 0.5%, while Facebook fell 7 cents. Those three titans are up 4.5%, 5.6%, and 4.8% respectively so far this week. Amazon edged up 0.6% on Monday after Jeff Bezos cucked and said, "Yes, please give me taxes. Give my competitors taxes." Amazon workers at an Alabama warehouse seemed on track to reject unionization, according to a partial count, which we'll talk about that towards the end of the program. Adobe advanced 1.3%, hitting resistance near an early entry of 506.61. Shopify stock popped 5.45% to 1222.69, reclaiming its 50-day line after rebounding from its 21-day line. One potential weakness is that some of these rebounding techs, including Apple and Amazon stock, have been rising on light volume. Square, Nvidia, Microsoft, and Taiwan Semiconductor on the IBD leaderboard. Shopify is on Swing Trader. Microsoft and Adobe are on the IBD long-term leaders list in addition to the 5 cited above. Google stock is also on that elite IBD 50. It's never moved off. All right, on the futures, looks like everybody is going up. I'm sorry. I take that back. I was mistaken. I already looked at the paragraph and I was mistaken. 2 are up, 1 is down. Dow futures rose 0.2% versus fair value. S&P 500 futures advanced 0.1%. NASDAQ 100 futures were 0.2% below break even. The 10-year Treasury yield rose a few basis points to 1.67%. The 10-year yield and growth stocks have been inversely linked over the past several weeks. Boeing said Friday there's a potential electrical issue for some 737 MAX jets. The Dow Jones aerospace giant said some customers should temporarily ground them. Boeing Air stock edged lower. Tesla sales in China surged to 35,478 in March, including 25,327 Model 3 sedans and 10,151 Model Y crossovers, according to an industry group. On April 2nd, Tesla reported quarter one global deliveries of 184,000, well above views, with China seen as a key driver. And, as always, remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. All right, let's see if there's a brief countervailing point from CNBC, but otherwise we're going to jump right into the Chauvin trial. Enjoy this ride, Wharton's Jeremy Siegel said stock market go up 30% before the boom ends. From Kevin Stankiewicz. I'd be a little wary of that. That's just me. Wharton School of Finance professor Jeremy Siegel said Thursday he expects the stock market's rally will persist at least through the year. However, he told CNBC that investors will have to be cautious once the Federal Reserve adjusts its highly accommodative monetary policies. Ooh, that's going to be a bad day on the markets too. It wasn't until the Fed leans really hard then you have to worry. I mean, we could have the market go up 30% or 40% before it goes back down that 20%. Following a change in course from the Fed, Siegel said on Halftime Report, "We're not in the ninth inning here. We're more like in the third inning of a boom." No. I'll believe that when I see it. Siegel said he expects to see a roaring economy this year as the last of COVID-era economic restrictions are lifted and vaccinations allow for travel and other activities to pick up again. That is likely to unleash inflationary pressures, though, he said. See, I see that, and I understand where Siegel's coming from off that, but you do also have an administration out there that's sitting there thinking, how can I get the most tax? How can I get more tax out of these people? I got spending plans to pay for, man. And Hunter, man, I got to get him some money somehow, man. He's got to keep getting that stuff. His special vitamins that he smokes through a glass pipe. We got to get him more of those. I think interest rates and inflation are going to rise well above what the Fed has projected. We're going to have strong inflationary year, I think 4% to 5%, the longtime market bull said. Economic conditions of that nature will force the central bank to act sooner than it currently anticipates, Siegel contended. But in the meantime, enjoy this ride. It's going to keep going towards the end of the year. U.S. stocks were higher around midday Thursday, with the Nasdaq's roughly 1% advance. The real standout, the tech-heavy index, dipped Wednesday but remained about 2.9% away from its February record close. The S&P 500 was adding to Wednesday's record-high finish. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was higher but still below Monday's record close. So, the economists are telling you, go on a buying spree because enjoy the ride. You're going to get a bunch of money and then sell off right at the beginning, which, like I said, once the Fed comes back and steps in, that's going to be a dark, dark day on the market, especially if we start to see some of these tax plans roll out that we see. Now, yes, the infrastructure is going to be there, and there are going to be several small businesses, trucking companies, construction firms that are going to make out like fucking bandits off of this, if they can get it through. But once you start putting the squeeze on the retailers, especially the mid-sized ones, not even the big ones are going to go out there and say, ha, tax money. Here you go. Here, politician, Make sure I don't have to pay taxes, but make sure my competitors do. This is going to be an interesting year. This is definitely going to be an interesting year. Yes, I do want to become famous. How many followers and primes and viewers should I buy? All right, let's get into the Chauvin trial because we have got a ton of stuff to get to today, and we're going to power through it all. First off, I want to talk a little bit about the medical examiners that came in. Now, we're going to go back, and I'm going to repeat the same thing I've been repeating all week. I'm going to sound like a broken record by the end of this as well, but once again, they're going to selectively cherry pick, and there has been a reason. Now, I could go to the Daily Wire, and I could replay Ben Shapiro coming out and saying, okay, gang, there's reasonable doubt, and this is all flying in the face and falling apart in front of the prosecution. Okay, gang, let's just say what it is. He's going to walk, and everything's going to burn, and police are the greatest, and everybody else is bad, and George Floyd was bad because, well, Ben Shapiro doesn't say that out loud, but we know what he's thinking. But I have been reading specifically from mostly left-wing outlets off this. I haven't gone down the Daily Wire, the Fox News, the Blaze, or anything else like that because I'm showing you what it is that they want you to see. What the mainstream media wants you to see because they think this is a slam dunk. And yet, I have yet to see any intent off of this. They'll keep saying, well, George Floyd died of asphyxia. Look at this report. You can see where all the oxygen went back out of him. Look at this. He died from asphyxia. It couldn't have possibly been a drug overdose. But they're not telling you. Well, Derek Chauvin got up and he put on his blue shirt today and he said that George Floyd, he's crossed me for the last time. I'm going to make sure that he never sees the light of day again. That's what I need to see off this trial, and I have yet to see any of that, even from the cherry-picked headlines that come from CNN that are trying to make this look like the way that they want to. Let's see what CNN has to say before I give my opinion back on this, though. George Floyd's pre-existing conditions and drug use had no impact on his death, doctor says. From Eric Levinson and Aaron Cooper. A renowned pulmonary critical care doctor testified Thursday morning that George Floyd died from a low level of oxygen when former police officer Derek Chauvin pinned him onto the street and restricted his ability to breathe. This caused damage to his brain that we see. It also caused a PEA arrhythmia that caused his heart to stop, Dr. Marty Tobin of Chicago testified, referring to pulseless electrical activity, a type of cardiac arrest. The cause of the low level of oxygen was shallow breathing, he added. Small breaths, small tidal volumes, shallow breaths that weren't able to carry the air through the lungs down to the essential areas of the lungs that got oxygen into the blood and get rid of the carbon dioxide. He identified 4 main reasons why Floyd died: the handcuffs, the street acting as a vice, Chauvin's left knee on his neck, Floyd's prone position, and Chauvin's right knee on Floyd's back, arm, and side. Combined, these limited Floyd's ability to expand his lungs and narrowed his hypopharynx, a part of the throat that air passes through. Floyd's pre-existing health conditions and drug use were not relevant to his death, Tobin said. A healthy person subjected to what Mr. Floyd was subjected to would have died, he said. Well, I'd like to see evidence to that, but Tobin's testimony came on the 9th day of the trial as prosecutors shifted into the 3rd phase of their case, focusing on the medical analysis of Floyd's cause of death. Also on Thursday, another doctor seconded Tobin's conclusion that a forensic toxicologist discussed the drugs found in Floyd's system. The first week of the trial focused on Floyd's last moments on May 25, 2020, particularly the harrowing bystander and body camera footage that showed his final breaths. Over the last few days, a series of police experts and training coordinators have testified that Chauvin violated police policy and used excessive force on Floyd. No, they have not. That's hard to believe, but no, they actually have not shown that. The medical analysis is important to the prosecution's case that Chauvin was a substantial cause of Floyd's death when he put his body weight on Floyd's neck and back for over 9 minutes, causing the death by positional asphyxia. Chauvin's defense attorney, Eric Nelson, has argued that Floyd died of a drug overdose and pre-existing health conditions. Chauvin, 45, has pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and third-degree manslaughter. The trial, now in its second full week of testimony, is expected to last about a month. Floyd used his knuckles to try to breathe, doctor says. Dr. Martin Tobin said these still images from body-worn camera indicated that George Floyd pressed his knuckles against the squad car and the ground to try and open up his chest and breathe. Dr. Tobin highlighted several still images from the police body cam footage that showed Floyd pressing his knuckles against the squad car's tire, pressing his fingers and knuckles against the ground, lifting his right shoulder, and even digging his face into the street. These images indicated that Floyd was using every possible way to lift up his chest and breathe, Tobin said. It's a very poor way of breathing, but it's what you have to do when everything else is failing, he said. Prosecutors also played disturbing slow-motion video of what Tobin said was Floyd's final moment alive as his eyes flickered and then closed. And a tear fell out of the eye of every juror. It's all performative at this point. Prosecutors also played disturbing slow-motion video. Oh, I read that one already. You can see his eyes. He's conscious, and then you see that he isn't. That's the moment life goes out of his body, Tobin said. By observing Floyd's condition in video and calculating the rate of decline in his blood oxygen level, Tobin deduced that Floyd eventually had no oxygen left in his body. Chauvin remained kneeling on him for another 3 minutes and 2 seconds after that point, he said. He highlighted a moment in the body camera footage when Floyd's legs lipped into the air. This involuntary movement, also known as anoxic seizure, is evidence of a fatal brain injury due to lack of oxygen, Tobin said. But once again, we do need to determine what caused the lack of oxygen, because there is still question on this, and we've got enough medical examiners to come back out. And I mean, the persecution can come out and parade every doctor they can out. But the mainstream media, like CNN, is bringing this to your attention with the presumption that the judge is looking at Derek Chauvin, presuming his guilt, and that the defense's job is to prove his innocence. That is not what court is in English common law, which is the basis of our court system. The trial is that Chauvin goes in with the presumption of innocence, and that it's on the persecution to prove, beyond any shadow of reasonable doubt to the jury, that Chauvin went in with intent to kill George Floyd in the heat of the moment, or kill George Floyd into the commission of a felony, of a separate felony, which they're going to try and make this into felony assault, or that he committed manslaughter, performing an action that he should have known better than to do that caused the inadvertent death of George Floyd. And I don't see any of those three going at this point. The manslaughter is a maybe. That's a 50-50 for me, but that is dropping more and more as I see more and more of the prosecution's case fall apart. As I see more and more of this fall apart, I see less and less of a chance that they can get Man 2 to stick. And as I said at the top of this, I'm not going into this saying that Derek Chauvin was innocent in what he did. I'm just saying that he was overcharged. And it's on Keith Ellison at that point, if he walks. It's not on the jurors. Well, the mainstream media is going to tell you that it's on the jurors, but it's not on the jurors. It's not on the defense. It's not even on the prosecution. It is on Keith Ellison, who came out and said, I'm going to try that motherfucker for murder, all right? Because this is going to be murder. I say it's going to be murder. This is going to be murder. Where he did it for political reasoning. So that's what we're seeing from these doctors that they keep parading out. I've got another one here from Fox 9. A little bit in the same vein. Derek Chauvin trial live. More medical experts to testify on Friday from Fox 9 staff. The state will continue to call expert medical witnesses to testify Friday in the trial of Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer charged in the death of George Floyd. Chauvin is charged with third-degree murder, second-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter in Floyd's death last May. The trial is being broadcast live, gavel to gavel, on Fox 9 and streaming live at fox9.com/live. Court is expected to resume at 9:15 a.m. That is going to be Central Time as well. 2 expert witnesses testified on Thursday that, in their medical opinions, George Floyd died of a loss of oxygen to the body. Dr. Martin Tobin, one of the nation's foremost experts in the science of breathing, was on the stand for most of the day. He is an expert witness for the state, but was not paid to testify. Tobin said he reviewed the medical records related to the case, as well as videos of the deadly arrest, and concluded Floyd died from a low level of oxygen that caused brain damage and a PEA, pulseless electrical activity, arrhythmia that caused his heart to stop. Tobin said that Floyd's low oxygen level was caused by shallow breathing. He testified that a number of forces led to that shallow breathing, including him being in the prone condition, handcuffed with a knee on his back and neck that would have prevented air from being able to reach the essential areas in the bottom of the lungs, where it gets oxygen into the blood and gets rid of the carbon dioxide, he said. Dr. William Smock, a police surgeon and emergency room physician from Louisville, Kentucky, not from his Louisville, Kentucky. Nobody owns Louisville, Kentucky. And if they did, I'm sure they would probably want their money back, especially after the Breonna Taylor riots. Was a paid witness for the state. He testified that, in his medical opinion, Floyd died from positional asphyxia, or in simpler terms, he had no oxygen left in his body. Jurors also heard testimony from Dr. Daniel Eisenschmidt, a forensic toxicologist at the NMS laboratory in Pennsylvania, who ran tests on Floyd's blood and urine from the autopsy. So, right now they're trying to cast this out as, once again, they're trying to position Chauvin as the killer off of this because of the positioning of George Floyd, as what they're trying to do with this series of medical experts. But I don't see it going anywhere. I really don't. I look at this, and once again, 2 of these charges require intent. And I don't see it. But what I do see is interesting here. I've got another one from CNN. Something unusual is happening in Derek Chauvin's trial. Analysis by Stephen Collinson and Caitlin Hu. And once again, as I always say when they say analysis on CNN, is that it's actually an opinion piece. But if they call it an analysis, then you're going to take it as gospel. But this is an op-ed on CNN. Some of the most damaging testimony against the police officer on trial over the death of George Floyd is coming from fellow cops. No, that's not true either. But good try. Somebody get these guys a cake that says, in pink writing, "At least you tried." The second week of evidence against Derek Chauvin, who is charged with murdering Floyd, has moved on from wrenching eyewitness accounts of the Minnesota man's death, which sparked a worldwide racial reckoning. Riots. Violent riots. Persecutors are now narrowing in on Chauvin's conduct in subduing Floyd, making a case that he acted outside reasonable police procedure. The defense will argue that a combination of Floyd's health conditions that Chauvin could not have known about means there's a reasonable doubt about whether he ultimately caused Floyd's death. But a succession of police officers have said that Chauvin's actions were unnecessary as persecutors try to convince the jury that he acted with malice. And that is going to be the most important thing. That right there is going to be the most important series of words that you're going to read in this entire trial right there. The persecutors are trying to convince the jury that he acted with malice. They're trying to convince them because they have not been able to show any malice. So they bring a breathing expert out and another breathing expert out, and they show the videos where he screams out, "Mama! Mama! I can't breathe! I can't breathe!" In the hopes that enough tears well up in the eyes of the jurors that they look past what's actually being charged here. And once again, if we had the procedural crimes, if we had use of force crimes, if we weren't going for murder fucking 2 on this trial, you'd have a way easier time with the jury. But this is a massively overcharged case. Lieutenant Richard Zimmerman, who leads the Minneapolis Police Department's homicide unit, said Chauvin's use of force while Floyd was already pinned down and handcuffed was totally unnecessary. Police Chief Madaria Arredondo testified that officers are not trained to kneel on the necks of suspects. Sergeant Jody Steger, an LA Police Department use of force expert, said Chauvin had employed excessive force. Another police officer, Nicole McKenzie, said officers are required to provide medical help and call emergency services for suspects who appear in distress, but CNN won't tell you about what these people have said on the cross and the redirect when it turns out that Jody Steger came back out and said, well, yeah, but in the situation with the resist, Chauvin actually could have used a taser or possibly shot Floyd instead. He used a lesser amount of force. He could have had more force on this one based on what we saw from the body cam image. But CNN is coming out here and telling you that the blue wall of silence is collapsing, and it is. Which is kind of shifty it gives me more of a distrust of the police. And it gives me more of a reason to laugh at anybody who's got the thin blue line off of there on the back of their vehicle. Because yes, there are people who stand with the blue, and that's absolutely fine. But the blue won't stand with their own. If they can throw this guy under the bus, hopefully they can see their cities not burn. If they can once again get the guy down for these way overcharges, then they don't have to go out and say, well, we'll have to deal with celebratory riots rather than angry riots. And Shapiro's got it best too on this, because I was listening to him yesterday and he pointed right out. Okay, gang, here's the bottom line. What's going on with this trial? There's two things that are going to happen. Either Derek Chauvin gets off and people go out to the streets and riot and loot and burn in anger, or Derek Chauvin gets convicted of second-degree murder and goes away for 40 years, and people go out and riot and loot and burn in celebration. And I'm sure that at this point, the thin blue wall guys are going to come back out and say, you know what, we would rather try to corral these guys who are burning our cities down in celebration rather than in anger. Because if it comes back in anger, we're going to become targets. They're going to throw this fucker under the bus. And once they throw him under the bus, and this is the important part, and I went on the monologue yesterday talking about this, because it's very important to remember what's happening in this trial. The mainstream media has judged, and social media has judged Derek Chauvin already as guilty. He was guilty, and it's on the defense to prove him innocent, according to the court of social media and the court of the mainstream media. And that's the same standard that they're holding on. I mean, we see this with some of the college rape cases, or sexual assault, or Me Too, where you go into this. The court of social media has the presumption of guilt, and you have to prove your innocence. And if they can get the regular court to start doing that, a whole bunch of us are fucked. A whole bunch of us are fucked straight out. If the burden of proof shifts to the defense and not the prosecution in a regular court. Forever until the end of time, the burden of proof is going to be on the defense in the court of social media. But there are a lot of us who are going to be in trouble if it flips the other way in the regular courts. And I do fear, especially with this trial, this pivotal trial, that may be where we're going. I'm not looking at Chauvin as a police officer. And like I said yesterday, I know a lot of you, as libertarians and anarchists, have a very, very strained relationship with the police. I understand that. Car guy right here. I know what it means when you see those white headlights with the amber in the middle coming up behind you. Whether there's blue lights on them or not. I know what that means. I know what that rush of fear is. Where somebody's going to come back out, saw you doing one little thing wrong, and is going to try and pin the rest of the fucking world on you. It happened to me in Massachusetts. Driving up to go look at a slightly better job than the one that I had at the point. I was going up, believe I was 495 I was going up there. And the state patrol came up and pulled me over. And the guy walked up back to my truck with his hand on his gun up to my window. Out of state plates. Older vehicle. I thought he was going to shoot me. So yes, there's that strained relationship. I respect that and understand that. I very much do. But no matter what Derek Chauvin's station in life is, he's being tried the same way that the rest of us would be tried if we were carried into the same court right now. He's being tried in the exact same way. And he still has the presumption of innocence. And it is tantamount to our society that our courts remain with the presumption of innocence. All right. That's what I have on the Chauvin trial for the day, and there's going to be more going on later on today, and we'll cover more of that on Monday. All right, let's talk a little bit about something else that's coming off with this before we get into the executive orders. And this kind of goes along with the same vein. I was going to put this later on in the program, but given what I just said and what I was talking about with the blue wall of silence coming down for Chauvin, there is something else to look at for this, and this is coming from another state, but it's the same idea, with it being open season on cops and the riots and everything else with that going on. So this is from KXLY.com out of Spokane, Washington. Spokane Sheriff's Office struggles with recruitment. Looking out of state, I would not want to be a cop. Even in far eastern Washington, in Spokane, I would have no desire to pick up a badge right now. And I have considered it. I have considered law enforcement when I knew that they needed help. Given the chance and given the opportunity to even go out there and be the one who says, I'm not going to enforce this law, and then have to answer to my supervisor for it. I've actually considered running for sheriff in this county in order to have the opportunity to say, all right, well, I'm not going to enforce speeding laws, drug possession laws, or anything else where you're not hurting people or taking their stuff. Our department is going to be specifically, don't hurt people, don't take your stuff, and we're not going to enforce mass shit either. If I ran for sheriff, that would be the platform that I would do. We would focus more on actual crimes where people's property is being destroyed, people are being hurt, and people are being robbed, and less on these little small potato crimes that are revenue generators for the state. But let's see what Alice Crescenti has to say. Since last July, the Portland Police Department has reportedly had more than 100 officers leave the force. That's led the Spokane Sheriff's Office to advertise in the area, using billboards to get the word out about their openings. Law enforcement agencies recruiting other regions and states isn't new, according to Sheriff Ozzie Knezevich. This year alone, the Spokane Sheriff's Office has allocated $140,000 towards recruitment, and the billboard seen in Portland can also be found in the Seattle and Denver areas. Currently, the office has 40 available positions open. The department was allocated to have around 230. The sheriff says it's difficult to find qualified applicants in the Spokane metropolitan area. He's put up the recruiting billboards in Portland following mass exodus from the police department after protests have gone on for almost a year now. We're all competing for the same people, and we're all competing for officers that are looking to leave jurisdictions that have shown they really do value their law enforcement. So this is a national issue, said Knezevich. And I'm going to stop on that one. I'm not going to go any further into this article, but I do want to point a few things out with this. And number one, especially for Spokane. Now, if Spokane put up a ballot measure and brought themselves into Idaho, I would actually see it probably be a lot easier to start recruiting if Spokane was a part of Idaho. But right now, you're going into Washington State. I mean, you're in Washington State. You want to go be a cop. Knowing full well the governor, I believe it's Kate Brown in Washington, does not have your back. I mean, look at what we saw with the Chaz and the Chop. And the governor took their side for almost the entire summer. No. The governor and, by extension, the AG in the state would not have my back in Washington. I would not have trust that the AG would have my back if something were to go awry in Washington. You could pay me $1 million a year to be a sheriff's deputy in rural Washington, and I would tell you to fuck yourself. Because I know that the governor does not have my back. I can completely understand where these sheriff's deputies can look out and say, you know what, it's not worth it. The governor's going to throw me under the bus for political points, and I ain't fucking doing it. So that's what's going on over in Washington and going on with the Chauvin trial. We'll be covering much more of that as we move along. Let's talk about gun control. How many of you guys are getting ready to go on a boating trip in a haphazard vessel in the near future? All right. This is from the New York Post. Biden declares no amendment to the Constitution is absolute as he rolls out gun measures. From Stephen Nelson. And we'll talk a bit about that later on because just that language right there is scary in and of itself. And Posobiec brought that to the most extreme position possible. And we are not going to watch a kangaroo get gutted while we're reading this. President Biden on Thursday announced a slew of gun control measures after a recent pair of high-profile mass shootings and insisted the Second Amendment doesn't grant an absolute right to own guns. Well, this will be interesting. Biden presented the executive actions in the Rose Garden, joined by Attorney General Merrick Garland and Vice President Kamala Harris. No amendment to the Constitution is absolute, Biden maintained, pointing to the famous Supreme Court ruling that you can't yell fire in a crowded theater as part of the First Amendment's free speech clause. We'll talk about that a little later, so I'll skip over that paragraph because I've got that video. Gun violence in this country is an epidemic. Let me say it again. Hey, wait a sec. Kamala, what's my line? Kamala. Oh yeah. Gun violence in this country is an epidemic, and it's an international embarrassment. The most widely anticipated measure instructs the Justice Department to issue a proposed regulation within 30 days to undermine the at-home manufacture of so-called ghost guns, which can be made with equipment that drills and folds metal parts. Activists who oppose gun control have promoted the technology. So what is this then? You officially outlawed every 3D printer and every CNC machine in America? You senile old fucking coot. What do you think that's going to do to small business in this country? What do you think that's going to do to the guy who I paid to bore out my engine block when I want to increase displacement? Which I promise I've never done in an older vehicle. Anyone from a criminal to a terrorist can buy this kit and in as little as 30 minutes put together a weapon, Biden said. I want to see these kits treated as firearms. What fucking kit? Are you talking about a lower? Because that has a serial number. You clearly know nothing about ghost guns. Ghost gun. Weapon without a serial number. With a forged lower. No, you fucking moron. Another action orders the Justice Department to issue a regulation within 60 days that would make clear when a device marketed as a stabilizing brace effectively turns a pistol into a short-barreled rifle. Well, that's fucking stupid. Subject to the requirements of the National Firearms Act. The White House said in a fact sheet, the alleged shooter in the Boulder tragedy last month appears to have used a pistol with an arm brace which can make a firearm more stable and accurate while still being concealable. However, the alleged gunman passed a federal background check before purchasing his weapon, and it's unclear if the new policy could have meaningfully altered the tragedy. Well, that's a failure on your own department because he was on the watch list because he was adjacent to people who were not authorized to buy guns. Now, pre-crime is not an issue, but if you're going to go by the standards that you've put forward, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., then your department failed, and I fail to see the reason to give your department more fucking power. You absolute fucking dunderhead. Another Biden rule orders the Justice Department to propose model legislation on red flag laws that states would have the option of adopting. The president said he also wants a national red flag law. Full stop. No. Doesn't work. Unconstitutional. That is a direct violation of the Fourth Amendment. I mean, I understand that you want to just wipe your ass with the fucking Constitution, but that is a direct contradiction to the Fourth Amendment. Red flag laws allow family members or law enforcement to petition a court order outside of the purview of the Fourth Amendment and the Fifth Amendment. That's an unlawful search and seizure. Temporarily barring people in crisis from accessing firearms if they present a danger to themselves or others, the White House fact sheet said. So, you're sitting at Christmas. And everybody else around you, you've got your guns with you because you carry concealed. But you've also got your house full of your armory. And you're talking about the new 870 that you just purchased. And how much smoother it is than your old 870. And how much you can't wait for deer season to come back out. So you can go try it out. I mean, you've tried it out in the range, but you still want to go out on that first week of non-rifle. I don't know what your hunting regulations are in your individual states, but in our state, well, I haven't been hunting for a while, but the last time I was out hunting in my state, the first week is non-rifle, so you can only use shotgun, and then the second week is rifle available. They may have changed that in the last few years, but that's what it used to be. So you can't wait to go out on that first week and try out your new 870. And your blue-haired cousin, who was born a girl but just announced that he's a boy, hears this and then calls the ATF or the Justice Department and says, my uncle, he's a terrorist, and I think he's mentally disturbed. He's bragging about all the guns that he has. I want to call in a red flag law. And your 870 is gone. Your brand new 870 is gone. Along with everything else that you own, but your brand new 870 is gone. The problem that I have with red flag laws is not the idea and the concept behind it. And I mentioned this yesterday when we were first going into this. It's not the concept behind a red flag law that I have a problem with. Because there are certain people who would, if they're a danger to themselves or others, that would benefit from this. The problem I have with this is who decides. That has been the problem I've had with this from the beginning. It's the same problem I have with speech, with anything else that goes along with firearms, with anything else that goes along with the Fourth Amendment. And hell, let's throw the Third Amendment into it. It's who decides is what I have the problem with. It's who makes that decision and what's going to be behind that. Because I guarantee you there are going to be a lot of political ideological differences that go behind the acts of red flag laws. And oops, oh, hey, you have a Gadsden flag. You are a threat to others. I'm sorry, I got to take your guns. Man. Biden is also ordering a report from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, which should be a convenience store, not a federal bureau, on the illegal firearms trade. And on Wednesday, Biden announced that he would nominate gun control advocate David Chipman to lead the ATF. Gun control gained political momentum after the massacre of 10 people at Boulder, Colorado grocery store last month, and the murder of 8 Atlanta area massage parlors. You probably didn't hear it, but between these two incidents, I don't know if I just have been sneezing too much because of allergies, but today the Biden voice is really fucking with my throat. We might not be able to do the Biden voice anymore today. There are more than 850 additional shootings. 850 that took the lives of more than 250 people and left 500 injured. This is an epidemic, for God's sake, and it has to stop, Biden said in the Rose Garden. Which, and once again, I kind of want to point out, and I've got the article up here. I got a couple of them, actually. the Philip Adams thing and then the Bryan, Texas thing that happened yesterday. Have you noticed that ever since Congress got a massive, massive, massive fucking boner? I tweeted this out yesterday. Ever since Congress got a massive big dick for gun control, every third day there's been a mass shooting, so-called. Every third day there's been one that makes the news, and apparently there have been 10 a day on top of this ever since then. So, yeah, this is happening. Now, I don't know what's going to happen when the Supreme Court steps in, or if this is going to be the final push for court packing, or what's going to happen with that, but this is happening. And yes, they're trying to come back out here and jam this down everybody's throat. All right, let's get some more information off of this one here. This is President fucking Knucklehead. Today I'm proud to nominate David Chipman to serve as director of the AFT.
Today, I'm proud to nominate David Chipman to serve as the director of the AFT. David knows the AFT well. He served there for 25 years. And Vice President Harris and I believe he's the right person at this moment for this important agency. Today,
never mind the fact that he said AFT twice. So, that's what we have going on with that. And all of his little fucking simps are, now we're talking fabulous pick, Mr. President! Alright, let's keep going. The article from that tweet from ABC News, Biden announces limited gun control action, saying gun violence epidemic has to stop. From Benjamin Siegel and Justin Gomez and Sarah Kolinovsky. President Biden announced limited steps using his executive power to address gun violence on Thursday, 3 weeks after 3 mass shootings and under pressure to act. Biden announced 6 actions, including asking the Department of Justice to issue a proposed rule to regulate the sale of so-called ghost guns within 30 days. Those firearms are assembled from kits of parts purchased online and don't have serial numbers, making them difficult to track. What a fucking moron. This guy has no idea what a kit gun is or what it means. Now, yes, I completely understand and respect. This was one of my key points when I had my gun control debate with Robert 2 years ago on the generational gap. Was the fact that there is the possibility to actually have a ghost gun. Yes, there's 3D printers out there, which you would never, until we get better into metal casting and 3D printing, you're never going to see me touching a 3D printed gun. Because I like my hands and I would like to keep them for as long as possible. But there are CNC machines. There are lathes. There are a generation of people, mostly in the baby boom generation, who can freehand machining. Yeah, now, yes, I understand that art is lost. Partially in Gen X and mostly in my generation. But there is still a generation of people alive who can freehand machine all of the parts you need. If you want to see a fucking ghost gun, I can make you a ghost gun with no serial number. You're not going to like it. And it will be against federal law for me to sell it. But it can be done. I don't have the skill myself for machining. I've wanted to learn for a long time for freehand machining. Not what you see in a factory now, but like actual freehand machining. It's something my dad's done. It's something I've been interested in for a while. Every once in a while, one of the things that helps me to sleep sometimes is watching Patrick Adair Designs channel over on YouTube, where he just machines rings. And I love the art that goes into freehand machining. But I'm telling you right now, you don't know the first thing about firearms manufacture, and you are admitting it in this. Gun violence in this country is an epidemic. Actually, let's listen to him because they give me the tweet for it.
Gun violence in this country is an epidemic, and it's an international embarrassment. You know, we saw it again last night as I was coming to the Oval Office. I got the word that in South Carolina, a physician with his wife, 2 grandchildren, and a person working at his house was gunned down, all 5. So many people, so many of the people sitting here today know that well, unfortunately. You know, they know what it's like when the seconds change your life forever. Gun violence in this.
But even while touting the actions he took on Thursday, Biden acknowledged that he can only do so much without the cooperation from lawmakers on Capitol Hill. And we're going to cover that one as well in a little bit here, so hang tight on that. I asked the Attorney General... I'm sorry, I can't do Biden voice today because I got a tickle in my throat. I asked the Attorney General and his team to identify for me the immediate concrete actions I could take now without having to go through Congress. Dangerous words for an executive to use. Those are words that an executive should never use. What can I do that I don't have to talk to Congress about? He later conceded that repealing immunity for gun manufacturers, which would require legislation, is a main priority and something that he wished he could do now. Biden promised on the campaign trail to send such a bill to Congress on the first day of his administration, but has yet to do so, which is the absolute stupidest idea in all of fucking history. If I go down to Janesville right now, to the Irish pub that my ex-girlfriend liked, if I go down there, drink a bottle of fucking scotch, get blitzed, get my truck, and on the way back, bury my truck in the local Burger King, do we sue Ford for my actions? No, we don't. So why would a gun manufacturer be any different? The gun manufacturer didn't go out and gun down a bunch of kids. This is a stupid fucking wish list item that honestly wouldn't pass the Supreme Court and wouldn't pass the Fifth Amendment anyway. So I don't know what it is that he thinks the law is, but it's not what he thinks it is. All right, that's what we have going on for that. Let's grab this one from CNBC. Biden says gun violence in the U.S. is an epidemic, unveils executive actions, and calls for the national red flag law. From Kevin Breininger. President Biden announced a series of executive actions on Thursday to reduce gun violence and urged Congress to pass broader gun control legislation. The bundle of actions, Biden's first attempt as president to tackle the fraught politics surrounding guns in America, was unveiled in the wake of recent spate of mass shootings across the country. Conveniently, as soon as Congress got a fucking boner to do gun control, including Thursday in South Carolina, where 5 people were gunned down. In the past 3 weeks, other deadly mass shootings occurred in Georgia, Colorado, and California, and then fell out of the news when they saw the skin color of the perpetrator. This is an epidemic. I keep trying to do the Biden voice, and it keeps tickling my throat, goddammit. This is an epidemic, for God's sakes, and it has to stop, Biden said in a Rose Garden speech. The White House's moves, including directing the Department of Justice to craft a rule addressing the spread of untraceable ghost guns. That is the stupidest fucking proposal off of this, too. I can't believe that somebody looked at this and let him get up on the stage and talk about this. There's got to be somebody in his administration that knows this. But of course, it comes back out, and it's not about actual facts. It's about stoking fear of the people who are going to vote for Kamala Harris in 2024. DeSantis might be president, and he might let the guns back out. The ghost guns. Oh my God. What could happen to the children? My God. My God. Could you imagine what could happen to the children? And publish an example of red flag law legislation for states to follow. Red flag laws allow police or family members to petition a court to bar an individual from accessing firearms. Biden also called for a federal red flag law, saying such legislation would prevent suicides, protect women from domestic violence, also prevent them from fighting back against domestic violence, and stop mass shooters before they carry out an attack. So, pre-crime is what you're telling me. Pre-crime. Biden announced he would nominate former federal agent David Chipman to head the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Chipman, who spent 25 years as an ATF special agent, is a senior policy advisor for the gun control advocacy group Giffords. So we're repeating a lot of the same stuff over here, and yeah, that's what we're going to see. And this is happening, guys. I got another one from NBC News. I think this is going to be a lot of the same. So President Biden is trying to limit ghost guns and make it easier for people to flag family members who shouldn't be allowed to purchase firearms with a series of executive actions taken Thursday in the wake of recent mass shootings. Efforts to find bipartisan agreement for popular gun control measures have fizzled, even as lawmakers expressed openness to provisions like tightening background checks. The actions by Biden are limited and will still likely face legal opposition from gun rights advocates who view any effort to limit their access as a violation of the Second Amendment. Because it is. You fucking twits. The changes come in the wake of shootings in Georgia and Colorado and focus not just on trying to limit mass shootings, but also reducing other forms of gun violence like suicides and domestic violence, Biden said. Hours after his announcement, at least one person was killed and 5 were injured in a shooting at a Texas industrial park, police said. Yep, we've got that one on the stack, and we'll talk about that in just a bit. All right, let's see what the AP has to say. They're actually pointing out, and like I said a couple articles ago, the AP is pointing out the fact that Biden orders gun control actions, but they show his limits, which is not something we're used to seeing from the executive branch, because usually it's, Congress won't do what I want, so I've got a pen and a phone. I know that I said on the campaign trail it's dictatorial for me to come on and rule by executive fiat, but Congress isn't doing what I want. And when I became the president, it became Congress's job to do what I want, not what they want, what I want. So I got a pen and a phone, and I'm going to make it happen, okay? Because they're not doing their job, because their job is to do what I want. So, yeah, limits in the executive branch are not something that we're used to hearing about, but definitely they're there. This is from Alexandria Jaff, Amar Madani, and Michael Balsamo. President Biden put a modest White House ceremony Thursday. It's modest because nobody would fucking go, because nobody wants to listen to this dunderhead speak. To announce a half a dozen executive actions to combat what he called an epidemic and an international embarrassment of gun violence in America. Well, in 1776, we stopped giving a fuck what the rest of the world thought of us. But he said much more is needed, and while Biden has proposed the most ambitious gun control agenda of any modern presidential candidate, his moves underscored his limited power to act alone on guns, with difficult politics impeding legislative action on Capitol Hill. Biden's new steps include a move to crack down on ghost guns, homemade firearms that lack serial numbers used to trace, and are often purchased without a background check. No, see, that's illegal. Purchasing a lower without a background check is a federal law. It's a federal crime. And it does have a serial number. Machining your own is not, as long as you do not sell it. If you sell a firearm that doesn't have a serial number on it, that is a crime. But as long as you manufacture it for your own personal use, you're all good. He's also moving to tighten regulations on pistol stabilizing braces, like the one used in Boulder, Colorado, in a shooting last month that left 10 dead. The president's actions delivered on a pledge that he made last month to take what he termed immediate common sense steps to address gun violence after a series of mass shootings drew renewed attention to the issue. His announcement came the day after yet another episode, this one in South Carolina, where 5 people were killed. But his orders stop well short of some of his biggest campaign trail proposals, including his promise to ban the importation of assault weapons, his embrace of a voluntary gun buyback program, where he's going to get like 5 guns and 75,000 pieces of lead pipe with an action on them nailed to a fucking 2x4, and a pledge to provide resources for the Justice Department and FBI to better enforce the nation's current gun laws and track firearms. Bypassing the 10th Amendment. And while gun control advocates lauded Thursday's moves as a strong first step on combating gun violence, they too acknowledged that the action from lawmakers on Capitol Hill is needed to make lasting changes. Some of the other big-ticket items are legislative, said Josh Horowitz, executive director of the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence, and that's going to be very difficult. Biden mentioned in a formidable list of priorities he'd like to see Congress tackle, including passing the Violence Against Women Act, eliminating a lawsuit exemption for gun manufacturers, and banning assault weapons in high-capacity magazines, neither of which would have prevented the Boulder shooting. As far as I know, neither of which would have prevented the Georgia shooting either. He also called on the Senate to take up House-passed measures to close background check loopholes. The gun show loophole. I want to go to a gun show just so I can exercise the loophole to see if it actually works or not. Because they've been telling me about it for the last 8 fucking years. And I know a lot of people that run gun shows, that run stands at gun shows, that tell me if they use the loophole, then they'll go to federal prison. So, and yeah, it absolutely 100%. He is limited, which is a good thing. I don't know if you guys follow Jessica Green or not, but she has been pointing out too that it's really suspect that people want to go out and make it harder for women to go out and buy firearms. But I guess, easy targets are easier prey. So when the predators go out there and they want to pick up some girl off the side of the street and violate her, it would be better if they know for a fact that she's not armed. All right, Momo over on Twitter says, periodic reminder that fire in a crowded movie theater trope came from a case in which a socialist was being prosecuted for handing out leaflets during World War I, saying the draft violated the 13th Amendment. The case was later partially overturned and is now considered bad law. Let's have a listen to what inspired this tweet.
Dr. Jill Biden, who cares deeply about this issue as well. And I look out there and I see so many members of Congress who've led in this fight. So many of you who've never given up. So many of you are absolutely determined, as Murph and others are, to get this done. We got a long way to go. It seems like we always have a long way to go. But also today we're taking steps to confront not just the gun crisis, but what is actually a public health crisis. Nothing I'm about to recommend in any way impinges on the Second Amendment. They're phony arguments suggesting that these are Second Amendment rights at stake from what we're talking about. But no amendment to the Constitution is absolute. You can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater and call it freedom of speech. From the very beginning, you couldn't own any weapon you wanted to own. From the very beginning the Second Amendment existed, certain people weren't allowed to have weapons. So the idea is just bizarre to suggest that some of the things were...
I want you to take in what he just said there, and we'll talk about that in just a second too with the Soviet thing, is no amendment is absolute. But of course, they're going to go back to the fire in the crowded theater thing, which is fucking bullshit. And yes, in the beginning, you could own any weapon that you wanted. That was the point of the Second Amendment. Private citizens were chartering ships to deal with piracy. They had cannons. They had puckle guns. Yes, you could own any weapon that you wanted, because everybody understood that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. A well-regulated militia being necessary for a free state, meaning that we will keep the French out and we'll keep the fucking government out too. Because if we go in there, the people might start shooting back. All right. Let's see what the Daily Wire has to say. Psaki on Biden cracking down on Second Amendment rights. This is only the beginning. More is coming. From Ryan Saavedra. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki circled back on Thursday that the plan unveiled by Democrat President Joe Biden to crack down on Second Amendment rights was only the beginning, and that Biden will take more actions. But don't worry, it was the evil orange man who was the tyrant and the dictator, not the guy who's coming for your guns. Oops, I mean, he's not coming for your guns. Except he's coming for your guns. Today, the administration announced that initial actions to address gun violence, Psaki said, there will be more. That is absolutely his commitment, and he also will use the power of his presidency, his voice, his political will to advocate for actions in Congress. We've read all these at this point, so let me see if there's video of this. There's not video of this one. But yes, Psaki is pretty much coming out and saying there's going to be more. All right. From The Blaze, Jen Psaki says that Biden does not believe the false statement he made about background checks. No, it's not his belief. This is from Carlos Garcia. I wonder if there's video on this one. No, just the YouTube video of fucking Glenn Beck show. I don't like Glenn Beck. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki told reporters that President Biden did not actually believe the verifiably false statement about background checks that he made during his speech on gun control. Critics of Biden pounced on his comments. Republicans pounce. On Thursday, claiming that anyone could buy a gun at a show without a background check. Most people don't know it. If you walk into a store to buy a gun, you have a background check. But if you go to a gun show, you can buy whatever you want, no background check. Sorry, I can't do the Biden voice right now. Washington Free Beacon firearms expert Stephen Gutowski explained why Biden was spouting gun nonsense. Biden just lied about how background checks work, Gutowski tweeted. He said gun shows are exempt from background check requirements. That is completely false. All that matters in terms of background checks is whether you are buying from a licensed dealer or not. He also added, Biden also falsely said gun manufacturers are the only outfit that's exempt from being sued. Biden wants to repeal the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act, which only prevents lawsuits based on the criminal misuse of their products by third parties. Gun makers can be and are sued for other reasons. I just want to touch on the gun show loophole thing for a second, because of some of the things that I know about gun being related by blood to one federal firearms licensed dealer, and having another one who's fathered my nieces and nephews. Now, I've got my uncle is the prominent one for this, because I've never actually seen my sister's boyfriend do this, but my uncle I have seen do this. So, at a charity event at a campground, where my cousin owns the campground, my uncle put up it was a long gun. It wasn't a handgun or anything, but he put a long gun up for sale. I'm not for sale, for raffle. And it actually turned out that somebody else that I know won this. So I sat there, and I was actually going over because I wanted to talk to my uncle about something else at the time. I went over there, and he had a cell phone out, and he had paperwork in front of him. So the person I know that won the gun, he didn't have the gun with him, but I watched my uncle after the gun raffle. He called the FBI, gave the information for the person who won the gun. And they did the background check on the phone for him. He did it right from where he was. So this whole gun show thing is a complete crock of fucking bullshit. They will make the call from the gun show to make sure that you are legal to do so. Because if they sell you that arm and you weren't legal to have it, they go to prison with you after you shoot up the fucking movie theater. You might share a cell, depending on how well you know the guy. So, yes, no, they'll call. The federal firearms license dealer will call. Right then and there. And then, of course, my uncle finished up, and he looked over at the guy and says, "Congratulations, you won a rifle. You passed." So, that's all just bullshit off of this. Later, when Psaki was pressed on the issue during that day's media briefing, she quickly folded. "Is it the president's belief that you do not have to undergo a background check when you go to a gun show?" asked a reporter. "No, it's not his belief," Psaki circled back. "He believes that background checks should be universal." "Right. He says no background check," objected the reporter. "Well, we know his position is right, so let me reiterate that background checks should be universal," she circled back, trying to steer away from Biden's verifiably false statement. So, that's what, and Psaki, that is her job, to go out and lie for the president. I mean, it was McEnany's job, it was Sanders' job. So that's nothing new. Wasn't it? Yeah, it was Spicer's job too. It was Sean Spicer was the one that came before Sanders. So yeah, that's their job, is to go lie for the president, but we can see through the lie at this point. All right. Now let's see what Posobiec has to say. "Biden just put slavery back on the table." Retweeting Charlie Spearing says, "Biden, no amendment to the Constitution is absolute." Now, this is the most extreme way to read what Biden said when he said no amendment to the Constitution is absolute. That is the most extreme way to read it. I accept that. But I also understand, in accepting that should it switch the parties? If it had been a Republican saying that, God forbid DeSantis said something like that too, no amendment is absolute, that would be the first thing they'd be sticking him with. Right there. Well, he thinks that the emancipation should be done away with. Or the 19th. I bet you that one would go over well too. They'd start screaming about the 19th Amendment. They'd start screaming about the 13th Amendment. They'd start screaming about the 14th Amendment and the Anchor Babies Amendment. They'd start screaming about all this shit. If any Republican ever said that, they'd be talking about slavery, women in the kitchen, The Handmaid's Tale, and all kinds of other stuff. Racism, every little thing. So yes, this is the most extreme way to read this. But I understand where it would be going in reverse. If we switch the parties, that would be all that we'd be hearing. And of course, since Biden was around when the Emancipation Amendment was signed, he understands what it was like before slavery was abolished. All right. Let's talk about a couple of things that happened yesterday in regards to this. KETV 7 ABC, Nebraska reacts to President Biden's executive orders on gun reform. From Michelle Bandur. New executive orders from the White House aim to curb gun violence. Melody Vaccaro, the president of Nebraskans Against Gun Violence, said it's about time. It's a breath of fresh air to see a policymaker in a high leadership role do something that matters, she said. Nebraska Firearms Owners Association leaders said the president is picking a fight with the wrong people. The focus is in the wrong area. The focus needs to be on the criminal, said James Gottschalk, NFOA vice president. The order would regulate the homemade ghost guns, which come from a 3D printer or a kit that you can buy online. They don't have a serial number and can't be tracked. Technology has changed, regulatory agencies haven't, Vaccaro said. They'd never track you down and say, "Aha, we found you, you murderer, because we tracked you through your Cabela's receipt." It doesn't happen, said Patricia Harold, NFOA president. Vaccaro said she hopes Governor Pete Ricketts will follow the president's plan. Ricketts defended the Second Amendment rights. In the past, allowed gun rights advocates to bring assault weapons inside the state capitol. I guarantee you they didn't bring assault weapons inside the state capitol. I promise you they didn't. But the new plan includes federal dollars for community programs. It's really hard for the governor to turn down federal money, so I think he'll be incentivized as part of the solution, Vaccaro said. And that's the kicker right there. It's going to be just like the drinking age over again. It's going to be the same thing. Well, you pass my agenda, or your highway funding is gone. Fucking Biden boys. So that's going to be the key one right there. Put these laws in place or you're not getting your money. They're going to dangle money over these people. Which is interesting, the fact that they've raised enough money they can do that. That's your federal income tax dollars at work too, by the way. Keep in mind. So anybody who is an advocate for the federal income tax, that's your dollars at work right there. Congress should have no ability to directly tax the people because then they can do stupid shit like this. So that's what's going on in Nebraska. A couple of other convenient events happened in the wake of all this, though, starting with KBTX.com out of Texas. Suspect identified in Bryan mass shooting. From Adrian DeMoss. Bryan police have identified the suspect in custody for the mass shooting that took place at Kentmore Cabinets in Bryan. The suspect was identified as Larry Bolin, 27 of Grimes County. And are you ready for this? You've already seen the teaser, so I don't know why I'm teasing this right now. But, you know, unlike what we saw with the Capitol car ramming, we did see it actually with the Boulder shooting, so I shouldn't go there. But also with the Orange County shooting. Or the Navy Yard shooting that we just saw earlier on in the week. They're going to show you this guy's picture. Because it fits the narrative. Police confirmed that one person was killed and 5 others were shot in Thursday afternoon at Kentmore Cabinets in Bryan. A Texas Department of Public Safety trooper was also shot in Grimes County. In connection with the Bryan business shooting, police and DPS officials say Bolin was taken into custody in Badias, but could not rule out whether another suspect was involved. At 6 p.m. press conference, Bryan Police Chief Eric Buskey said that they did not have a motive for the suspect in the shooting. Well, he's evil and white, don't you know? The DPS trooper who was shot in Grimes County while pursuing the suspect was taken in by medical helicopters to St. Joseph Health Regional Hospital in Bryan. The trooper was in surgery, according to Buskey. At the latest update, the trooper was in serious but stable condition. Buskey said the police were called to the cabinet manufacturer at 2:30 p.m. Thursday. Officers arrived at the scene at 2:36 p.m., at which point the suspect had left the business. One person died at the scene and 4 others were transported to St. Joseph Regional Health Hospital in Bryan. Critical condition, according to Buskey. The police chief said that one additional person is in non-critical condition. A 7th person was transported for an asthma attack. So details still unfolding at this point, and also dependent on how big they want to make this story. Keep that in mind. We'll probably be talking about this more on Monday because this is going to blow up over the weekend, especially because look at the guy's face. There you go. This one fits the narrative. And this one from the Associated Press. Authorities, NFL player Phillip Adams killed 5 and then himself. And I'm pretty sure the only reason that you can see this guy's face is because he's really, really high profile and people were going to talk. From Michelle Liu and Meg Kinnard. Former NFL player Phillip Adams fatally shot 5 people, including a prominent doctor, his wife, and their 2 grandchildren before killing himself early on Thursday. New York County Sheriff Kevin Tolson told a news conference that investigators had not yet determined a motive for Wednesday's mass shooting. There's nothing right now that makes sense to any of us, Tolson said. Dr. Robert Leslie, 70, and his wife Barbara were pronounced dead in their home in Rock Hill along with their grandchildren, Ada Leslie and Noah Leslie, the New York County Coroner's Office said. The man who had been working in the Leslie home, James Lewis, 38, from Gaston, was found shot to death outside. The sixth victim, Robert Shook, 38, of Cherryville, North Carolina, was flown to a Charlotte hospital where he was in critical condition, fighting hard for his life, said a cousin, Heather Smith Thompson. At Thursday's news conference, Tolson played audio of two 911 calls, first from an HVAC company that employed Lewis and Shook. One of the men, the caller said, had called him screaming and saying that he had been shot and that his coworker was shot and unresponsive. I think there's been a bad shooting, a different man said in a second 911 call, saying that he was outside cutting his grass and heard about 20 shots fired at the Leslie home before seeing someone leave the house. Tolson said that evidence at the scene led authorities to Adams as a suspect. He said they went to Adams' parents' home, evacuating them, and tried to talk Adams out of his house. Eventually, they found him dead of a gunshot wound to the head. Tolson said both a .45 caliber and a 9mm weapon were used in Wednesday's shooting. I gotta ask if he killed himself by shooting himself twice in the back of the head. Because this is so convenient right now. With this big dick that Congress has about gun control, this is just too convenient for me. And dead men tell no tales. Now, I won't say anything for certain until there's evidence to this. But yeah, it looks like possibly killed himself after going onto the rampage, and nobody's ever going to know his motive. Strange. The day before they're about to release sweeping gun control measures. Interesting. All right, let's keep going, because we still got a bunch of other stuff to do. And then I still got to read your chapter of the day, and it's already after 9. All right, Senator Joe Manchin says lethal Capitol selfie fest persuaded him against nuking the filibuster in order to seek bipartisanship. From Carlos Garcia. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia earned more online ire from the left after he unequivocally said he would not vote to end the filibuster and explained it was the lethal January 6th selfie fest at the U.S. Capitol that changed his thinking, in which the only people who died at the selfie fest were the people who were raiding the Capitol. And one guy long after the fact. Manchin, 73, explained how the riot changed his mind in an interview with CNN on Thursday. January 6th changed me. I never thought in my life, I never read in history books to where our form of government has been attacked at our seat of government, which is Washington, D.C., at our capital by our own people, Manchin said. So something told me, wait a minute, pause, hit the pause button, something's wrong. You can't have this many people split so where they want to go to war with each other, he added. Manchin's vote has become a key bulwark against the schemes of the less centrist Democrats since the Senate is evenly split between Republicans and Democrats. And that's where I was going with this too, because when the Democrats started to come to power, and it looked like it was going to be Democrat House, Democrat Senate, Democrat presidency, they've already started talking about the fact that they were going to use this to jam their agenda down people's throats. They were going to end the filibuster, and they were going to just jam it down your throats. They didn't give a fuck what you thought anymore. And I think that's why Manchin is doing this. That's why he's doing this. Because if you oppose the tyranny of the simple majority against half of your country, yes, they're going to be pissed, and they're probably going to come back and do this again. Whereas if the agenda is either stalled or they have to sell the agenda to both sides, you've at least got some concessions out of there, so it's not a complete fucking tyranny at this point. Just a partial one, as it's been for the past 100 fucking years. So good on Joe for that. Let's go with the New York Post. Adam Kinzinger says Matt Gaetz needs to resign from Laura Italiano. Illinois Rep. Adam Kinzinger has become the first Republican to publicly demand the resignation of Matt Gaetz, and he cites newly reported money links between the embattled federal congressman and a sex trafficking accused pal. Matt Gaetz needs to resign, Kinzinger tweeted on Thursday night. The tweet links to a Daily Beast story that details $900 in cash transfers, because Daily Beast is completely objective, made on a single night in May 2018 between Gates and the Florida congressman's friend, Joel Greenberg. The former Seminole County tax collector is currently indicted on 33 counts, including sex trafficking charges involving a 17-year-old girl. Well, we'll see what comes out of it. But it's funny that all these things keep happening to Republican members of Congress, where Nancy Pelosi has a very slim majority. First Marjorie Taylor Greene, with the attempted vote to expel her. Then the lady whose name I can't think of, who was facing off against Rita Hart, with the 6-vote margin of victory. And now Matt Gaetz. Just please resign. This seems to keep happening left and right. It's totally grassroots, though. Alright, I might have to save some of the rest of this here, because we are running up on the clock and I still have to get up to work. Let me see if there's anything else that I want to do, because yeah, the rest of this I think I can hold off till for Monday. I want to do this one, though, before we go. Diddy tweets out, "We're done letting corporations manipulate our culture into believing incremental progress is an acceptable action. If you love us, pay us. Here's my letter to corporate America." So, according to The Hill, Sean Combs pens open letter to corporations about supporting black-owned media from Sarah Polis. Musician and producer and entrepreneur Sean Diddy Combs, in an open letter on Thursday, slammed large corporations for failing to support black-owned media. In the piece posted to Combs' media site, Revolt, he wrote, "The same feet these companies use to stand with us in solidarity are the same feet they're going to use to stand on our necks." In particular, the Grammy Award winner called out General Motors for pointing to Revolt as one of the black-owned media companies it supports but not following through. Combs acknowledged that Revolt receives advertising revenue from GM, but said the relationship is not a model of a successful partnership. So, Combs at this point is coming out, and I haven't read the letter yet. It is here on Revolt, and I'm going to read it over the weekend. And we'll possibly come back to this back on Monday. But Combs is coming out and essentially saying he's shaking them down for money, is what it sounds like he's doing from the Hill article. He wants corporate America and white America to pay his media company more money so he can go back out. And honestly, if your media company is that good, then advertisers will be coming left and right to go and advertise on it. Now, I'm using this as an ad blocker, with an ad blocker rather. And I look over to like CNN. It's got 44 ads blocked on one page. 50 on another page. Fox 9, a local affiliate, 10 ads blocked. NBC News, 8 ads blocked. NBC News again, 28 ads blocked. I'm looking at these, I'm seeing all these ads that are blocked on these big name corporate websites. And Revolt TV has only 5 ads blocked, which means that they're not tripping over themselves right now. For a national publication headed by a very, very well-known media figure already, they're not tripping over themselves to advertise on this. So maybe you need to make a better product if you want to sell it to more advertisers. I understand. I don't have any advertisers coming to my product either at this point. I don't have anybody coming to advertise on my product. I'm trying to make a better product for you, but I don't have anybody coming to advertise on my product either. So I get it. I get the struggle. I understand. But if you want people to advertise on you, you make a better product. Otherwise, keep putting out the product that you love and hope that enough advertisers get back on board for this. Make a better product if you want advertisers. But I'm actually going to dive into this a little bit more and see if I can't get more into this. We got to call it for the day. It's 9:15. I still got to get to work yet today. And I still have to thank everybody who chatted in live chat, which that's the most important part of my Friday. We will talk about more about Diddy, some JetBlue stuff, some Georgia stuff, and the giant monitor lizard. We'll talk a little bit more about that on Monday, but I need to get to you guys. You guys are the most important part of this. So let's get the live chat up over here so you guys can see that I am reading what you guys have to say. And it looks like you guys were busy too, so. But starting off, before we get into any of this, for the last week, on Monday, we had Ron Helton in here. Quest Fanning was here. Stephen Ignoramus came in with the host, which fucking rocked, by the way. He's been hosting me on and off all week, which I love. I love to see. And if I had the big enough D-Live audience that I could host too, I would be hosting him back every daily Ignoramus. Because that's what friends do for each other. I should host him over on Twitch, but I barely get any views over on Twitch. Well, I get Chilaka on here now, but for the most part, I don't get a lot of views on Twitch. Hopefully after this big stream coming up next weekend, that'll change, but it's almost a meaningless gesture if I host on Twitch right now with my low number of following over there, but I should start doing that more for him, because he does that every time he comes in. He comes back and hosts, and I'm not reciprocating. I'm being a sucky friend. We also had Chilaga 1984. Mad Cow Mark, our friend from the other side of the world, was in here. Harvey McLeod came in. I'm working on getting her scheduled in for the big charity stream along with Silent Caster. Nephilim Ninja was over here, and McConnell Smuggles Coke came in and hung out over here. Epic Hans is here too, I just see. And I got to reach out to you, Epic Hans, because I got to see what time works out for you for the charity stream. And yes, way to suck. Thank you, Hans. On Tuesday, we had Chilaga, 1984. Quest Fanning came in and hung out. Elephant Man was here. I got a message from the D-Live team, which means that's the reason that you guys over on D-Live are starting to see the adult tag over there, because I got my pee-pee slapped for not having the adult tag on, and they tagged it for me. But we still have the monetization on, as far as I know. Do I still have it? Somebody throw me a lemon to see. We got Ron Helton in here on Tuesday. Silent Caster came in, who is going to be on the charity stream. And go check out Silent Caster's channel if you see him in the chat, because I'm going to be on his show tomorrow. I believe that is at 2 Central. There'll be a tweet and a Discord message out about it when I go in there. And I will host it as well. So go and check me out over on his channel. I'll be working with him and Harvey McLeod for... I'm not sure how long the show is going to be, but definitely looking forward to hanging out with them and being over there. So... be over there. We also had Boulder Vaughn came in and hung out with us for a little while. I haven't seen Boulder Vaughn for a while. RV was here in Chilaga on Wednesday. Wednesday was our slow day for the week. We had Ron Helton was in here, Chilaga 1984. Sen_is_dead, that was a new name. Linda Cloud showed up and gave me a glowing review in the chat, which was pretty cool. I was pretty excited for that. Let's see, who else do we have? We had McConnell Smuggles Coke was in here on Wednesday. Yesterday, you guys were busy yesterday, so thank you. And that's so awesome of you guys who came and hung out yesterday. Yesterday we had Quest Fanning. Steve Ignoramus came in with another host. Nephilim Ninja of Nibiru was here. Spartan 0000 Superior 1 came in and hung out with us, which I saw him back up in the top of the show when we were talking stocks. McConnell Smuggles Coke was here. Chilaga 1984. Silent Caster once again. IMORT_47 showed up. That was a new name here. And Turret Ha, who proclaimed me to be a profligate, asked me if I would accept Kaisar's Legion. And you know what? As far as Kaisar's Legion, I would rather be slung to a cross. All right. Today, let's see what you guys are doing today. And remember, if your message is sufficiently bigoted or stupid, it will raise the intellectual level of this program, and it will definitely get read on the air. Oh, wow. I love that sticker, Spartan, by the way. That's awesome. That's Spartan's baby picture up there at the top. Spartan says, Tron TRX at 11.9 cents. I wonder if that's a new crypto or what that is, but Chilaga says, good morning, my fellow contemporaries. That's what I'm going to start calling you guys now, my contemporaries. Steven says ignorance. The R-rated conservative has degenerates. The generational gap doesn't have a name. You guys have names now. You guys are contemporaries. Love it. Thank you, Chilaga. Quest Fanning is here. Monero is at $285. XMR is going to $400 and you can mine it. I don't know what XMR is, but I'll look into it. Most advisors don't know anything. Most financial advisors only care about their commission. Nephilim Ninja of Nibiru is here. Spartan says, if Derek gets convicted, we need to buy fentanyl stocks. Wow. IV Google Master 22 asks if we want to become famous. Buy followers, primes, and viewers on this link. This looks totally legit too. Should we follow it? For bigfollows.com. Nephilim says glass pipe supplements. McConnell's got the sticker. The W sticker. Fuck W. Oh, I can't breathe. Oof. Oh, McConnell, that was a rough one. I like it. Nephilim says, sweet prior medical issues don't affect situation in the future, according to this professional. Yeah. Chilaga says, Keith Ellison's like the... Okay, let me make sure I can say this. Keith Ellison's like the weatherman from Family Guy. It's gonna rain! It's gonna be murder! Also, let's ask all these breathing experts if covering your mouth with cloth hurts or helps. Nephilim says, I've heard medical experts talking about putting people on their belly to improve O2 rather than putting them on ventilation. That's a well-known fact that could explain why what he was thinking. Quest Fanning is here. He says, let's waterboard ourselves. You know, when they were talking about waterboarding, I actually volunteered to do it and nobody would waterboard me. That was back when my channel was really, really tiny and I asked a couple of my coworkers to do it. I bet you there are a bunch of people in the audience right now that would do it. But I asked some of my coworkers and none of them wanted to get on board with that. Chilaka says, Quest, exactly those people at baseball games wearing wet masks. It's like waterboarding. Nephilim says, funny you mentioned that I'm waterboarding right now. That was a stretch. Quest says, I'd still say I'd rather have the video and some degree of transparency than not. The trial in the media. Public opinion has long been an issue. I was surprised when a bigger deal was made of Michael Brown than Eric Gardner. The outrage of Brown was over a small, undocumented thing about a guy documented to have done a strong-arm robbery. With Gardner, you could actually see the illegal chokehold. Yeah. But that doesn't fit the narrative. Guns were at issue at the time. So the illegal chokehold was not the issue. And a Democrat was still holding up the Department of Justice, if I remember my timeline correctly, with Eric Gardner. That was still the Obama DOJ. They're talking about the Michael Brown documentary from Shelby Steele, which I have not seen. What Killed Michael Brown? Everyone should watch it, especially before this trial ends. Let's see, Nephilim says there's a lot of drywall work to do because he doesn't have any guns. I can't say that, Nephilim. I can't say that out loud. Yeah, I'm not, even with the censorship on there, I can't say that out loud. That's Susan bait right there. It's funny, but I can't say that out loud. Arvolt says, let's see. The thing about shouting fire in a crowded theater is it comes from a dissenting opinion. It's not SCOTUS precedent. Interesting. Just arrived late. DLive gave a mature audience type warning. The first words I hear are a fucking kit. That is from Arvolt. Thank you for coming and hanging out, Arvolt. You were warned, Arvolt. Did you see Brigham's Women's Hospital is giving preferential treatment to people of color as form of repetitions? I think he means reparations, but No, I didn't see that. That's interesting because that violates a lot of stuff, including Hippocratic Oath. Quest says, wouldn't it be funny if Chipman raised the American Federation of Teachers? AFT, tobacco takes a back seat. Arvolt says, I guess firearms got a promotion. Make it assume its rightful position as the fat. Come on, fat! No way, Jose says, I like guns. Do you like guns? I do like guns. Probably why I have so many. Neff says, I freehand machine almost every day, easier than you think. That's interesting. It's something I've always wanted to learn. I need to get the tooling, but like a regular sized lathe is $500 to $1,000 used. But I would love to try it and learn. I definitely would. Quest says, my paternal grandfather was a tool maker. Excellent. Quest Fanning says, how many folks are kept safe when they defend their homes with a gun when, as Biden himself pointed out, seconds count? I am NEGAN 342F says, hello, cars are designed to transport, guns are designed to kill. That's the answer. Well, no. No, that's not the answer. Once again, we don't go after the manufacturer when somebody is a fucking moron with their product. Why am I broadcasting? Isn't the point to interact with the chat? I am interacting with the chat. No, this is a headline show. I interact with the chat on my other shows, but this is a headline show. Quest Fanning says, how many folks are... Oh, we read that one already. I'm guessing that I am NEGAN, which I'm not going to read that out because that's Susan Bate too. I'm guessing that that person didn't stick around. Nephilim says, you know, sometimes I feel I don't have enough patience. Then a person from Twitch jumps in the chat. Do we think that guy was a real person? He probably was, just pissed off that I didn't interact with the chat. Silent Caster says, what have we gone over so far? Gun control and Chauvin. Quest says, I'm a bot, aren't you? Silent Caster says, Biden didn't. He was around back then. Chalaga says he'll come back up here at some point and buy the scotch in Janesville. Oh, that would be cool. Thank you. Nephilim says, you're a bot to Quest. I've been thinking that this reality revolves around me being the only real person. Prince Philip died. I guess they ran out of... I'm not going to say that out loud. But yes, Prince Philip passed away. I saw that this morning, but I don't care about the royal family, so I didn't put it on the stack. Quest says, in case anyone doesn't know, the gun show loophole refers to the fact that you can buy a gun from someone who isn't a dealer without a check. Individual to individual, check your local state regulations because that actually might be false. Spartan says, I went to a gun show and was mad no one was doing shooting tricks. What the fuck? I was expecting all kinds of shooting skills. No sexy girls dancing with guns. Looking GIF Annie Oakley. We need real gun shows. Yeah, I would love to see a gun show like that, but 21-inch guns. Spartan says, Trump started promoting the red flag laws and now Biden will push it hard. Good cop, bad cop, stupid people still fall for it. Yeah, that's true too because, well, Trump was a Democrat on most issues. Ron Helton makes a good point, though. If applied logically, the first guns removed would be those from the hands of the government. They are lunatics. Well, not only that, the government has a monopoly on violence. They use their guns specifically against other U.S. citizens. and they've proven they're incompetent, especially with money. Yes, they would be the first ones to have their guns taken away under red flag laws. Can we call a red flag law on the government? Elephant Man is here. Welcome on in, Elephant Man. Spartan says, you cannot print out a decent, reliable firearm. Yeah, that's the reason that I don't want to shoot one. And like our host said, people who print them are not even criminals, just people who want self-defense. A serial criminal will get a real gun. You can use a truck as a weapon. They should focus on putting some more moral education in school instead of teaching kids to be gays and trans. Spartan says, Elephant Man says, everyone knows the meme about hard times make hard men. Spartan says, but you could just say single mothers instead of easy times. Quest says, the weak who made it through the cracks are now catered to. If that happens, Elephant Man, true evolution of the human species would take place. Spartan says, fat equals weak. Well, I got a little bit here that I got to move back and roll back on. I am fitting better into my pants, though, so. Spartan says, a lion would catch the fat people first if we lived in the jungle. Look at Africans living naturally. No fat people. Elephant Man, that's Susan bait. I like it, but that's Susan bait. I'm not going to read that out loud. Chilaga says, the asshole from Animal House was right. Well, that's a movie, and I've never seen it. Fat, dumb, and stupid is no way to go through life, son. Quest says, Puff Daddy is right that corporate Americans should stop with the hollow gestures. I'd rather they not gesture at all, but if they're going to pay lip service, they should be consistent. Well, Combs should also make a better product. As I mentioned before, Epicons is here. Epicons is going to be participating in the charity stream, so I gotta get in touch with you, Hans, and check out what time is available for you on that Saturday, because that's next week already. Let's see. The lemons are active. Nephilim is complimenting Epicons. Go check out Epicons too, by the way, if you haven't already, because he plays video games on Twitch, and he's been a friend of mine for years, long before the camera's been on. I've drank a lot of whiskey with that dude. Definitely go check him out. Quest says, Ron, do you see this from D-Live? Neff gives the finger, says, Ron, can you see this? Hans is over on YouTube now, making me come over here. Elephant Man says, Gen Gap watchers are X-Men. Nice, I like that. TRX is a crypto. Quest says, I was thinking old WWF group D-Generation X. XMR is a crypto. Spartan, you and I will have to sit down and have a conversation about that, because I'm interested in mining and seeing what could actually come up. I know that I don't have the rig to do any sort of mining right now, but especially if it's something smaller, I'd be interested if I could do like a Raspberry Pi miner and see if it would work. Not even to make a fortune off, just to see if it would work. Especially with one of these smaller cryptos, to see. And then possibly go in and use what I learned to make a big mining rig at some point. But Arvolt says waterboarding must be done correctly or it can be fatal. Not that I research that kind of thing. Chilaga says that Negan guy DM'd me here on Twitch asking why J. Edgar doesn't interact with the chat, because we're on limited time and I'm already possibly going to be late for work off of this. So it's headlines and go. So Spartan says, anyone is free to have a streaming show with zero interaction with the chat. Well, yeah, you guys come knowing how I do this morning show and how I do the rest of my shows too, which I haven't given you guys an Ed Talk in a really, really long time. And it looks like it's going to be a couple more weeks yet too. Maybe we'll see what happens at the end of Silentcaster show if I can still come up and do one tomorrow. But that's been the thing, is that, I go to my parents, or I've got something else going on that weekend, or it's Easter weekend and I want you guys to spend time with your families. But yes, I do need to give a dedicated live chat show for you guys, because I haven't done it in forever. I have not done it in absolute forever. And I owe you guys that. Chilaga says, taking guns away from cops is an awesome argument for the left to take up. Hey, I'll lobby for him to do that. Nephilim Ninja says the amount of times J. Edgar says I can't read that is increasing. That's because you start coming into my chat more often, Nephilim Ninja of Nibiru. Remember, this is Nephilim Ninja of Nibiru is the guy who's... It is you, right, Nephilim? That's got the robot sketch on your YouTube? You know, gay lords. All these gay lords. That is you, right? Epicon says, get to work, son. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll touch base with you later on today, though. Ron says, too much of Ron is rubbing off on you guys. I love it. Neff says, I consider it a responsibility to have him say at least once to my commitment. I can't say that. That's going to be it for the day. So, and that was Nephilim too. So thank you guys for coming and hanging out. Let's change the scene. Let's throw some music up. Do I have music to throw up? Well, let's change the scene and see if I can find the music. And let's get the hell out of here. Where's my music? Where's my outro music? Because I restarted my computer last night and I didn't set it up in advance. There it is. There's my outro music. All right, while that's loading up here, I want to get started and thank you guys all for coming and hanging out with me throughout the show and throwing your stuff up in the chat that I can't read. Trust me, what you guys do in the middle of the week too, I still can't read half of that on the air either, but I love to see it. I love to see you guys hang out, and thanks everybody who did so. Remember, we will be live 24 hours on April 17th for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I am definitely looking forward to that. A lot of great guests here. I'm just looking back at the advertising material and seeing who's all going to be here. People I know, people I'm meeting for the first time. It's going to be exciting. Hopefully we grow the channel, we get some more audience in here as well, and get some more reach out to people to give a more liberty-minded message, especially when it comes to the news. So love to see that as well. We will see you guys otherwise back here on, well, first we'll see you on tomorrow for Silent Caster show. That will be at 2 p.m. Central Time. So come and hang out with us over there. You can find him in the chat and go hang out over there. Otherwise, we'll be back here on Monday for more Contemporary, or Monday night for the Red Ned Show, where we'll be talking about Chauvin and this gun law shit, which that fiery redhead that I share the screen with is going to be definitely livid to talk about this one on Monday, because she loves her guns just as much as everybody else does. So definitely looking forward to seeing that again. We look forward to seeing you next time over on this channel, though. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day. We'll see you next time. And I'm J. Edgar, and this is Contemporary.